Welcome to the iNetrepreneur Radio Show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNetrepreneur Media Network from magazines, TV, and radio network, we're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. It is 2:30 somewhere, and that somewhere right now is in Arizona, and we are in Pacific time. It's April 18th, and we're having our 252nd show on the iNetrepreneur Network. I am Robert Jones, and I am your host of this great show. I have so much fun on it, and I love bringing people on and just having conversations. That's what it's all about, having a few conversations. I'm really excited, and I do want to mention that our book number 4 for 365 days, and that's actually 366 days in the book. 365 days of gratitude quotes is out. You can go to mybook.to. That's mybook.to/Art of Connection 4, and you can pick up your copy there. We would love for you to have a copy in your hands and learn about the great things that our author members are stating for the world. Oh my goodness, it's so wonderful. Also, please, we love your likes. Yeah, doesn't it sound funny? We love your love. We like your love. We love your likes. Go to facebook.com/iNetrepreneur Radio or YouTube. That's youtube.com/iNetrepreneur Radio. And like us there, bookmark us. That way you don't have to worry about spelling iNetrepreneur. I get it. That's why we call ourselves iNet, the iNet community. Also, for those who may be new to the show, we do have 2 wonderful magazines. One is called iNetrepreneur.magazine.com, iNetrepreneur Network Magazine, and the other one is The Contemporary Woman, thecontemporarywoman.com. You can find and subscribe there to both those magazines. They are free for all the subscribers. I also want to remind everyone, you can go to ntevents.net. That's ntevents.net, where you can find our pop-up events, summits, chapter events, radio shows, author circle meetings, and so much more. And I do want to remind everyone that we do have our new Phoenix Central chapter. It is open. Please, if you're in Phoenix, come out. It's every Tuesday from 9:30 to 10:30. Would love to see you there, 9:30 to 10:30 local time. And enough of the iNetrepreneur Network business. I want to bring on our first guest of the show. He is a very good friend of mine, and I love having him on the show each and every time. We have Mr. John Verrico. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, Robert, it's great to see you again, my friend.
Oh, always. It's always like, you're getting to be like an old T-shirt, John. I mean, geez, it's like it's like comfort food, except it's a comfort shirt when I see you,
I was
ladies
going
and
to say,
gentlemen.
I hope it's comfortable and not stinky.
Yeah, no, well, I'd like to say it's freshly washed. Okay, so I am with John Verrico. He's an author, speaker, entertainer, a veteran and owner and founder of Share Your Fire. You can reach John at johnverrico.com or call 240-257-6373. And 6373, I just learned something, John. What does 6373 stand for?
Stands for nerd.
Gosh, can you believe that? No way.
It spells me out just perfectly.
Oh my goodness. John, we've had a lot of dialogue on our show over the past couple of years. And, one of the things we tend to really concentrate on the pivot point on going into entrepreneurship and what that's like for you. And, some of the epiphany points and the ahas and the awakenings and, oh my goodness, I've jumped out of the plane. Is my chute going to open up? But one of the things that we really haven't talked about is really the achievements and the accomplishments, and really more of your life has been in service than even your youth. Let's go into your military career, your public service career, even your teaching and training. Tell us a little bit about your background and maybe some of the achievements that you've had over the last few years.
Well, thanks, Robert. I actually When I first left high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to go into electronics, and I went for school for electronics, and I worked for as an electronics technician, and I was good at it, but I enjoyed the interaction with other people more. I enjoyed helping to train other people. I enjoyed writing the training manuals more. And so I kind of found my niche, bounced around for a little bit. And then ultimately, at the age of 23, I realized I needed some discipline in my life because I couldn't hold the job down. I couldn't get up in the morning. And even though I was good at whatever job I did, I needed some discipline. So I decided to join the military. And I didn't want to do like you and go into the Marines and crawl through the mud and get shot. And so that's also why I didn't go into the Army. And I'm afraid of heights, so I didn't want to go into the Air Force. So I said, well, I know how to swim, so I'll join the Navy. And so what I did was I joined the Navy as a Navy journalist. I spent 10 years active duty and then converted into the reserves. And when I went into the reserves in 1990, I also shifted to a civilian government career, and then just recently retired after 42 years of combined service between military and government. And in that whole time, I did public affairs and basically helped tell the stories of the government, of the military, of the agencies that I was working with, of the people within them, and more importantly, helped the people learn how to tell their stories. And it, fortunately, nothing to do with the politics side, but all about the good work of the people who serve in government and military positions.
I think it's kind of interesting because they always portray military journalists a certain way in movies and on television. And I always kind of chuckle when I see that because it is actually in many ways far different than what people see. And there really is a certain amount of code that military journalists have to have. And is actually a certain amount of binding agents, that military journalists have to, work within. And I'm sure, in a way, I know you well. You're really a maverick, and you test new boundaries and you try new things, and you really love to be in that creative space. I'm sure it was amazing being a journalist, but tell us, some of the things that you learned being a journalist, not just about the job itself, but you as a person.
Well, thanks. Actually, the best way to describe it was I realized that the reward that I got for doing my job well was actually helping other people be successful, helping people to, and like I said, tell their story. And so when I was on a Navy ship, yeah, I did a lot of internal stuff. I ran the TV station and the two TV stations, two radio stations, did a shipboard newspaper, sent newsletters home to the families, and then I also handled all the press queries and all that kind of stuff. So, the reporter, real reporters, I mean, commercial civilian reporters, don't want to talk to necessarily the commanding officer all the time, and certainly not the public affairs guy or the journalist. They want to talk to the people who are doing the real work. And your electricians mates or your boiler technicians and the people who are really doing the job, a lot of these guys don't normally talk to reporters. They don't normally tell their story. They're too busy doing the work. And so my goal was to kind of get those folks into the limelight and showcase what they could do. And every time I had a little success there, I got, ooh.
Yeah, yeah,
that was my reward. And so I realized, as I continued through my career, that that's what I wanted to really focus on, and to do less of the actual writing and the news reporting and
Mhm.
and the on camera stuff, less of that myself, and more about getting these folks the recognition that they deserve.
And that's interesting because you also have taken what you learned from that in your desire to do that, and you've put it into your career, and you've really amplified it, in the current day and age. But here's something else that a lot of people don't think about, and this is, I really think that this is a disservice to military service people. Is sometimes we talk about the military service and we forget, that the military being a part of the branches, being in the battalion or a company, for me, a fire team, even, we tend to forget that military service is still a people business. It's
Oh
all
yeah.
about the people. It's all about the camaraderie. It's all about, the ability to connect and work for a mission. We are, mission driven in many ways, and as a journalist, why does it seem like, we don't put a lot of emphasis and coverage on, military personnel as actually just being people like anyone else in public?
Yeah, that's just, and that was pretty much my focus, not only in
Hmm.
military, but also in as a civilian in government. People
Hmm.
look at a government agency or a military organization, and they look at them in context of the mission,
Yeah,
not in context of the human beings that are actually doing the work and driving that mission and achieving success. And so that has been my focus and my passion, is to get, like I said, the recognition for those folks and to show that, hey, we're not just a faceless group of guys with guns, or whatever other type of organization we're at. We're not just a bunch of park rangers. We're not just a bunch of policy wonks. We're not just a bunch. We're actually human beings that have real whole lives, and are very passionate about the work that we do. And that was important to me, to make sure that that story got told. And you're right.
yeah,
In general, we don't see that very much. In recent years, I'm starting to see more in the general media. I'm starting to see more focus on the human element of things. And that's what drives the world, right? It's our
yeah,
humanity. It's our individuality. We're a bunch of human beings that each have a life, and we need to understand that in all of our interactions. However we interact with people, we should be much more compassionate. You don't know what's going on in somebody's life. They're not just the guy, checking the sonar on a ship. They have a family back home. They've got all kinds of things going on in their lives, and yeah,
yeah,
it's
and and
important.
and and that's really, in many ways, you tend, in the military, you have to create a military family around you, because
Yeah.
um uh, the bio extension of your family is not there at many times. But one of the things that I found really amazing about you is, in the community of INET, we always say everyone has a seat at the table, and everyone has a voice that should be heard. And I think that that's what you've brought, because of your journalism career, because, your background, being in the Navy, bringing these voices to light, and being illuminated because of that. And see, that's what I see that you do today is you work with entrepreneurs, and you have a real great gift of not only getting their voice heard, but actually having their voice so it makes some types of sense to it, right? 'Cause it's not enough, because I love to say that, it's about getting your voice heard, but it's not just about getting your voice heard. It's actually getting your voice heard, providing something that has meaning, and creating some type of impact to those who can hear your voice. And that's something that you do of Share Your Fire, isn't it? You really help raise that vibration, that energy, and actually, create clarity in your clients' voices.
Robert, everything that we do on this planet requires somebody else to help us. No matter how much we think we are independent, no matter how strong we think we are, there's always somebody else that we rely upon. And
Yeah.
that's what I try to help illuminate. I want to bring people together so they can understand who's there and who's helping them and who's supporting them. I mean, no matter what you do, you need a product, right? You need,
Hmm.
well, for example, to do this, we need laptops and an internet connection and a microphone and headsets, and people manufacture those things. You have to remember that there are people out there putting these things together, circuit board by circuit board. There are folks that are providing the service. There are people that are digging up channels in the ground to run the cable and uh, the various wiring in order to get internet every place. And so everything we do requires some input from somebody else. And so I've just tried to help to make those connections, make people see that we're not really different from each other, but we all need each other. And everybody on this planet is actually part of one great big team that really kind of helps to keep things going.
Well, and it's always about, really one big team. It always really is about, having a place where we can meet and have like civil discourse and conversation. And, many times it really isn't different positions. It's just misunderstanding of how people
Yeah.
articulate positions. And that happens in the military. It happens as entrepreneurs. It happens, heck, with me and my wife. I mean, it just happens sometimes. and
It's human
and
nature.
it's human nature. One thing that the military taught me is it really taught me in many ways that yes, you need to do a mission. Yes, you don't complain. But the other thing it taught me is how to really start developing thick skin. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as an author, especially when you start getting into the public eye. I mean, you when you do put yourself out there, you do, put yourself out there, and people do judge you, and they do, want to see, a certain perfection from you each and every time. you know I'll tell you this: I am not going to go out there to profess I'm perfect in any way, but what I will profess is I'm going to profess that I'm going to
I
work
think you're pretty
my
close.
butt off. Yeah. That I'm going to, that I'm going to outwork the next guy. I'm going to out hustle. I'm going to outwork. I'm going to, see it through the end. I'm going to persevere, because it's not always just about the talent. It's not always just about the education. Sometimes it's just that, pick yourself up by the bootstraps and get stuff done, and that's something that you do as well, John. Did you learn that from the military, or did that even become established even before you joined?
I learned a lot of it from both my father and my mother. They were definitely perseverers. I don't know if that's proper word or not. I should know things like that because I'm a journalist, right? But uh,
Right.
but my dad, he was a blue collar guy, and he had to quit school early because his father passed away, and he had to leave school and go to work at the age of 13 and help to support his mother and siblings. And so he didn't have a lot of formal training. When something needed to be done, dad just went and learned how to do it.
Yeah.
He did whatever it took to keep us fed. And what the ethic that he ingrained in us was that every day is an opportunity to learn something new. And he told us, I don't care if you stay in school or not. I would prefer if you did. But whatever you decide to do, learn something from that experience. Learn from every experience. Learn something new every day and continue to grow and persevere. And don't let anybody tell you no.
Mm,
And
and,
mom was similar that way too. Only mom's focus was mom was an entertainer. I don't know if I ever told you that, but she was actually one of the Rockettes early on
oh wow.
before she met my dad. And then years and years and years later, married to her third husband, she was a performer. She was singing and dancing in senior centers at the age of 85. Just kind of brought it all back around full circle. And the reason why she did these things is because she looked at the people that she was entertaining and she watched those smiles on their faces. And she knew that for just that moment, they forgot about their pain. They forgot about whatever else was going on in their life. And they just had a moment of joy. And she was able to bring that. And so combining kind of the ethic of those two wonderful people in my life, that really, really helped. And when I got into the military, I found some really good, strong leaders who made me feel like I mattered and that whatever I did made a difference and that I was part of an important part of a team, not just part of the team, but an
Yeah.
important part of the team.
Yeah.
And then there were
You know,
other leaders that weren't quite the
it,
same way. And so
right.
so we choose the behaviors we want to emulate.
Well, and that's something interesting too, because in so much I see in this day and age, and it may not be 100%, but it's pretty high. You know, it seems like as entrepreneurs, we're kind of taught to run from adversity, and always go to a comfortable place. And And for me, I think it's adversities, aren't something to avoid. They're actually something to conquer. These are the challenges that I think I see in those who have served in the military for a substantial bit of time is, they really don't look at things as insurmountable. They really look at them as, you know, you know, chunks and bits that we have to accomplish. It may not be all at once, but we're still going to accomplish because, we have learned a little bit about the drudgery, of that, like Chinese water torture of adversity. Tell me a little bit about that and how you apply really the adversity in a certain respect of going through the military, time frame in your life, and in what ways you can apply it for yourself now as an entrepreneur, and how you can apply that to your clients.
Everything that I learned in the military and going through all the hard times, right? The boot camp and the separations from family and all of that stuff. You know, and let's face it, living conditions aren't necessarily the best on the planet. Even and now I didn't have to sleep in the mud like you guys in the Marines,
Right.
but I did have to share my room with 180 other guys, taking turns
Mhm.
to get to the showers. We had 10-second showers. Go, next guy's
Yeah.
got to go.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of hardships and a lot of challenges, but what I learned about that is to appreciate what it takes to get through adversity, to appreciate the contributions that other people make and the sacrifices other people make in order so that as a team we can succeed together. And
Mhm.
so, no matter how difficult a hardship might seem to ourselves, we don't know how much harder that might be for somebody else.
Yeah.
There was one fellow on my ship who he was Native American, and I was wanting to kind of tell his story, and he did not want anyone to even he did not want to even acknowledge the fact that he was Native American because where he grew up,
Right.
the prejudice was just so bad, and so did not want to even acknowledge his own heritage. So you don't realize that there are other layers of adversity and other problems that people may be overcoming beyond the ones that you just see on the physical surface. And so, because of that and that appreciation, that just made me appreciate whatever I have more. Really helped me to understand the concept of gratitude more than anything else. And then realize that even though I may be lacking something, I may have an abundance compared to somebody else. So it's really it's an eye-opening uh,
The experience.
experience.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the word abundance, because not just because it's going to be our fifth book that's coming out. You know, I will tell you this. I've eaten some really bad food in my life, and I've been pretty I've been
You're
pretty
in the Marines,
hungry
of
in my
course.
right. And I've been in through some pretty harsh situations. Believe me, sleeping out in the rain is not that fun. Getting shot at is really not fun. It some of these things really put a lot of perspective in what abundance truly looks like. And you know going to boot camp and through my service, you're really throwing a lot of different people all together. And quite frankly, one of the things I'm getting goosebumps even saying this like really, it's just coming out. But it's like when you throw that many people together and you're driven to complete your mission, you don't have time to dwell on the differences. You know,
Exactly.
the only time that you have is you have to get together and you have to complete the work that needs to be done to move forward. And sometimes I just look at things today. you know I tell people, I say, I don't think that we need more diversity training. I think we really need more adversity training, because so many of the things that we really complain about at the end of the day, you know, they're really not. It's not really trauma. It's more like drama. It really is inconveniences. And
Right.
when you get right down to it, if you're mission driven, you just cut through the stuff, all the information and all that data and all that side talk, and you don't have time to play. And that goes with the courage part. A lot of business owners, they're not successful because they do the busy convenient stuff, but they don't do maybe the hard stuff that it needs to take to really succeed. So and this is where I'm going with that, John. you know we have been, we have lived enough lives. I always say, if you get to 50 years old, if you haven't lived 4 lives by now, you just haven't lived. I mean, you really haven't.
I must be a
Four
cat.
more. Right, right.
I
And
might be on my second time around as a cat for this point.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
right.
65, so
Well, there you go. So when we talk about that word abundance, I could go to Chat GPT, or I could go into Google and I could look up that word and I could find out what the so-called experts put together for the word abundance. But when you actually sit across the table and you see the word abundance there, you know, what does that word mean to you?
like you said, you can look it up and it's affluence and prosperity and riches and wealth and
Right.
stuff. And it's not that, it means, to me, it's the abundance of things to be grateful for. If we look around us, there's so much to be grateful for. And there's plenty in the world to be grouchy about. But what I choose to do is to find the joy and the humor and the love in every situation. And it's there. It really is.
Mhm.
That's kind of ultimately the meaning of life, right?
Yeah.
Life is, for some people, the meaning of life is living in fear of everything. So
Yeah.
they get in their little box and they don't want to try things. They don't want to try new things. They're afraid of this. They're afraid of that. They're afraid to take risks. They're afraid to take chances, and they box themselves in. But really, what life is all about is that love is found everywhere.
Wow. That's amazing. It really is. And love is that abundance thing. So so here's the loaded question. I always like to give you a loaded question, but this isn't too much of a loaded question. Um, but what I really want to know from you, John, is, throughout your experience, you know, really a youthful entrepreneur in many ways, but a seasoned veteran and a seasoned um, um, government servant. What I'd really like to know from you is, when you look at entrepreneurs today, especially those who may not be going through adversity, and maybe those who have been handed things to them, and maybe they do not know what abundance looks like, because when you have it all, you don't really understand it all. you know when you sit down with clients, and you really want to bring about change in them so they can grasp abundance more deeply. What does that conversation look like? What are one or two things that you say to them to kind of get them past being unstuck and going into being unleashed, to share their fire?
Every I have found that every individual is unique in their own way, but yet I think what happens is people get lost in the myriad of trying to succeed, that they sometimes lose touch with their story,
Yeah.
with their own heart. A lot of people, when they go into entrepreneurship, there's a lot of different reasons for it, but it usually comes down to the fact that they just don't want to work for somebody else. When you realize, of course, that as an entrepreneur, you work for everybody else instead of just for
Yeah,
one
you do.
boss. And everybody is
Absolutely.
now your boss, right?
Right.
And that is, it's a different mindset. And so understanding that entrepreneurship is really a life of service. I admire the people who've had the courage to take on such a life of service without the assurance and this.
Yeah, I agree. And I am with John Verrico. He's
For
author, speaker,
over 20
entertainer, and
years.
yep,
Security blanket that
yep.
we
I
did break up
we
there for a
lost you
moment.
for yeah, we just broke up. We just broke up. I just want to remind everyone I'm with John Verrico. He's an author, speaker, entertainer, veteran, and owner and founder of Share Your Fire. You can reach John at john@johnverrico.com or call him at 240-257-6373. For those who don't know what 6373 is, that spells out nerd. And John, now that you're back, I want to ask that question, or at least let you answer that question again, if you're able to. You're on such a
I
passionate
was saying
role.
that I was saying that no, I know. I was saying that I admire the courage that people have to become an entrepreneur, where everyone now is their boss and they have to serve everyone and they have to constantly, or have to perform at their top in order to keep going, and at the same time not have that security blanket of a paycheck. And I was starting to say that I dabbled in being an entrepreneur as a side hustle for over 20
Mm,
years because I was passionate about what I was doing. I was passionate about speaking and coaching and all that other stuff, and helping people, even though that was also a good part of my full-time job. But I
right.
had that
Yeah.
full-time job security blanket.
Yep.
And just recently now I have made
Mhm.
this leap. And you said, is the parachute working? And it's more like I'm building an airplane while flying it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it
That
takes a
is
lot of courage.
definitely
And I
it.
truly admire that in people.
Yeah. Well, again, I thank you
And so
so much, John, for
when I
being on the
work with
show.
folks, I really,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
I
Yeah.
really try
So
to
I'm with
emphasize
John.
that courage. It's all
Yep.
yours.
I'm with John
We're
Verrico.
grateful.
He's author, speaker, entertainer, and veteran, and owner and founder of Share Your Fire. You can reach John at johnverrico.com. Again, that's John@johnverrico.com, or call him at 240-257-6373. He is your local fire starter nerd, all in one. I say do it because he will get your heart going as well. John, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you. I appreciate you each and every time that you're on the show. Make it
Always
a
great
great day.
conversation. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Robert.
Until I see you soon. Bye bye. All right. Wow. Again, thank you so much, John, for being on the show today. You know, when I came up with the idea to have the iEntrepreneur show, I didn't really want it to be overly scripted. I wanted it to be a show to where it's just, a couple of buddies, a couple of friends, good people just coming on, and we just were talking on the telephone. And when we're talking on the telephone, we just stop for a moment and say, hey, you know what? I wish other people could listen to our conversation, because our conversation matters, because we both matter and we care about people that much. And John, you're definitely one of those people. Another people that has come into my life, and is an amazing man, And he is like one of my greatest friends. It's just like, man, it's just like the more I get to know him, his patience is amazing, his passion is amazing, and his love to help couples is amazing as well. And I have my good friend and next guest, Mr. Daniel Faust, is on our show. Daniel, how are you?
Doing good, but you're dating yourself about the telephone. People don't do that anymore.
I really am. I'm definitely dating myself with the telephone, but you know what? I love it when I get a call, and I still love it when someone sends me a handwritten thank you note. It just kind of means that they just did a little bit more effort to remain and stay in touch with me. Everyone, I'm with Daniel Faust. He's an author, publisher, veteran, and owner and founder of Learn and Live. You can reach Daniel at daniel.r.faust, right, Daniel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, at gmail.com. Again, that's daniel.r.faust at gmail.com. Or you can call him at 602-757-6711. And Daniel, I see the 602 number there. Did you live in Phoenix at one time?
I lived in Scottsdale, Arizona from 2016 to 2019. So yes, I was part of the iNetpreneur network for a short little bit before moseying to Dover, Delaware. That's where we're at now. So not as fancy as this place, but yeah, Dover, Delaware.
Well, I tell you, it's pretty interesting. I still remember the days because that was actually pre-COVID, and so much has changed. Since 2019, COVID swept into this country in March of 2020, and it
Mm-hmm.
seems like everything went topsy-turvy. My organization went from an all-person networking organization with 17 chapters all across the nation to nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. We couldn't meet at any of the chapters, and we didn't have the infrastructure that really got ourselves out there through the digital technologies. Um, one weekend, Daniel, I spent 72 hours straight just getting everything set up so we could start to live and breathe again in this new digital world that COVID made us get in.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there was a lot of change in pivots in your time. Even though you're in the military, you do a lot of things outside of the military, and it also uprooted and changed your life as well. But what I
Oh yeah.
really want to do is you have been a veteran now in differing capacities for 24 years. And I want to salute you for that. I was in 6 years, so 24 years is looking like, yeah, it's looking like quite a bit of time.
It
And
is.
this, and the same with John. It's like, do you even remember what it was like before you went in and served your first tour?
I do drastically. I have a very eidetic memory. I have roughly about 11,929 days left on this planet, depending on how long I live. So I remember those moments. I remember having the long hair as a civilian. I remember going over and thinking like a civilian in those types of capacities. So, and also with being active duty 12 years and being a reservist and now a full-time reservist for 5 years, I've known those bouts on both sides and everything else. The hardest part, I think, sometimes of what me and John has done is that we're playing multiple roles at the same exact time. From 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, I'm wearing a military uniform, but I'm playing a civilian. And then Saturday and Sunday on drill weekend, I'm playing full-time soldier. Nights and time off, and when we were at MIC, I'm playing a veteran and going over. We have many roles in this world, and we sometimes don't think about the many roles that we have and what the impact is. My boss doesn't know what I go over and do. She blessed me with a huge bonus this time around, but the thing is that she only knows some of my aspirations. She doesn't know everything. So yes, I can reflect back when I worked in the grocery store. I can reflect back when I tried to look for civilian jobs before coming to service. I can reflect almost going homeless 4 times when I got out of active duty service from 2012 to 2019. Even when I knew you, Robert, it's like I was braving a face as an entrepreneur and seeking homeless shelters at the same time. So yes, I can reflect back on those multiple roles. I think it's a unique gift that God has given me on that. I can try to empathize and sympathize with the multiple different roles. So that's what we do at Learn and Live. We help you thrive from the prayer room to the boardroom.
Well, and one of the words I really love it is the word roles, roles. And you're a father, you're a husband, you're a
Mhm.
Christian, military service, you're a side hustler, you're an entrepreneur, and you have all these differing hats, and you've done, in my opinion, an outstanding job of being able to pivot and shift in microseconds, because many times there's a demand and a need for you to change those hats. Whether it be your wife coming in as a business partner, your child needing you, whether you're thinking about, hey, gosh, am I going to get deployed, or is something, could something happen in my life to uproot everything. So in the same way that John has had, he's kind of building his plane and packing his parachute at the same time. You understand what that's like, and I think you have an undeniable perspective on what it's really like to be a hard charger, but yet be soft enough to have empathy and understand others. Tell us a little bit about your life as an entrepreneur, as you're evolving from being really a quasi or a para full-time military person to this new hat and role of a full-time entrepreneur. How has that been for you?
I would say the only way I've learned those roles is from my wife. I was in one role and I was an a-hole for a long time,
Mm.
from 2006 to 2013, until my wife spiritually kicked me into you know where. And then I had to go learn how to be right with God from the prayer room to the boardroom. I'm not always doing it perfect, but that was the transformation from 2013 to 2018 in that particular regard. So I would say the role of an entrepreneur is understanding your identity. And I did not really understand my identity. I was just living out moment to moment, even though I'm very self-conscious and self-aware. I've learned over the years about moments. Like, I am like Lawnmower Man. I'm like, I know exactly when I was born. I don't know exactly when I'm going to die, but I'm like the person that figures out the numbers, and time goes slow for me. But it was learning my identity in Christ, and my wife was the catalyst to go over and to do that, to really then go realize when in 2017, and that was when me and you met around that time, when I broke my back and had to learn how to walk again, that how do you go deal with those things and go over those pivots? Because when you don't know your identity, an entrepreneur is impossible, a father is impossible, a husband's impossible, a Christian's impossible. If you don't understand your identity, you're just going over and doing the behaviors. You're not truly living it out for being and knowing and doing. Most of us are doing and hoping to know and hopefully to be, and that's it. So that's what I would say. If anybody's going to jump any ship, getting on the military, making that transformation, government employee, entrepreneur, retiree, whatever, you don't know your identity, you're just living out behaviors. So that's what I would say is the role of how you make that entrepreneurial change.
And it's really important too that we discuss other things that entrepreneurs may find. You, if I may say this, you had struggles in your marriage because you may not have walked with God. You had struggles with how you emoted your personality with those around you. Kind of like what my son says. Is it the smile that attracts people, or is it the frown that pushes people away? These are all things that you had to sit down and come to terms with that. You know, and now that you've really shifted, you've done that 180 from the before over the last, I would say, decade and a half. I think you've really changed a lot. What has that meant to you? And when I say meant to you, how does that come across with both your ministry, your military career, and the entrepreneurs that you work with?
It allows me to really go over and connect with them. I wouldn't go change a moment when my wife just spiritually kicked me in the you know where that day. I mean, I'm keeping it PG because we're on LinkedIn. But
Yeah.
anyway, if we were on
Right.
TikTok, you just say what you want. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, those moments is how I now connect with everybody else, is reflecting back through all those trials. That's how I can connect as an entrepreneur and as a Christian and as a husband and father. Because even now, some people like, how do you make all those pivots? How did you go through 70 different jobs between 2012 to 2019? How did you go networking with Robert W. Jones and then work in a grocery store a few hours later? I worked at the Fresh Market, by the way. That's one place. I also went over and sold vacuums. I did all those types of things. It was able to, hold on one second.
Mm-hmm.
My internet went funny. But yeah, those pivots and everything else was because of that. So I would say, I lost my train of thought. In summary, overall, that you have to really, you just have to, that those, I'm lost.
No. I mean, yeah. Your wife and you were pushing through, and you did a 180-degree turn, and really, it's
Yeah.
like, if you were to say Daniel 2012 and sit down and say Daniel 2024, if you would have known how radically you have changed, what would have you told the Daniel of 2012 to say, kid, we got to turn this around, because the person who you are isn't the person who you need to become.
Yeah, humility and identity. Those are the two things I would
Hmm.
tell my 2012 self. Be humble, listen to the people that are giving you wisdom, and know who you are. There's a great scripture in Isaiah 43. It tells who you are. It's like you're redeemed, you're called, you have a set of people, you have places to go over and go. You have to know those things. That's what I would tell my 2012 self. And sorry for the audience, I got confused. My computer went wonky and then my train of thought went away. So we're back on. Welcome to live podcasting.
Oh my goodness. So, one of the things that we really kind of live to be a part of is serving veterans, mill spouses, even those who are transitioning from the military into a civilian career, especially entrepreneurship. You know, John is a part of this. Jeffrey Morris is a part of this. Buddy Thornton's a part of this. We're really assembling kind of a dream team, so to speak. You know, in the
One book at a
next
time.
one book at a time. Absolutely, one event at a time, one meeting at a time, one to one at a time. you know when it comes to um you know your focus and your mission of helping veterans pull themselves up and out and go from surviving to thriving. What are some of the things that really get you up in the morning and say, oh my goodness, who am I going to save today? What am I going to do today? Where am I going to go today? What does life look like for you now, being a man with a new mission?
I would say, I wish I could say I'm always focused on that every single day. I'm still in the trenches as being that government employee, being that military person.
Mm,
But those mornings I do wake up, I'm like, how can I go over and inspire and transform and give information and connections and legacy and opportunities to each person I meet? I want to give opportunities for people to be authors. I want people to have opportunities to share their marriage trials. I want people to learn about their faith, those types of things. So each of those moments that I'm serving somebody, I'm looking for what's best. I'm like, and it's never for like ultimate gain and cost and success and everything else. Would I like those things? Yes. But if we ain't lifting up the community while we're doing that, it's pointless. So when we met with Dr. Ken Rocham last year, when we started Leave No Veteran Behind, I wasn't connected with him because he had access to Jumbotron. He was just a veteran and an opportunity to get into another book to get our message out there. And that's how me and you and Dr. Ken came together. That's how the Art of Connections Now, Volume 5, Dr. Ken Rocham is doing that. So for me,
right.
it's how do I go over and serve you to uplift you? Because if you're doing better than me, that means I'm doing my job. Because my job is to teach the world better relationships so you get to your dreams and destiny, so the kingdom can be created. And that's
Yeah.
my goal in my heart. So everything I go over and do is trying to look for those opportunities, even if it's as simple as I'm at work and trying to offer an opportunity to do a training allocation so someone can go to tech school. Is the job boring? Yeah. But the transformation I'm doing for that opportunity for that person to get to their dream and their destiny, which might be a military tech school, well, then that's the goal.
Yeah. And for you, Daniel, when it comes to this transition that you're having, what what are some of the easy wins that you feel like you've had in this transition, and where are some of the difficult things that you're finding in this transition?
The easy things is having the conversations. The hard part is making the connection to keep the consistent client to go and get them into the next opportunity. I remember when me and you were doing Leave No Veteran Behind. The book was easy. That was the easiest part, is going over and getting the marketing and getting the opportunities and going over and getting book signings and doing those types of things to make it a good livelihood. We're still in the trenches for that. So I would say those are the hard parts right now is, yes, I could do a ton of opportunities for free and get on podcasts and go help you with this, but to get you to your transformation and then also taking products and services that are part of my transformation business and making that consistent, those are the hard parts. I mean, once we got it up and rolling, it was simple. Leave No Mill Spouse Behind is live right now. That's going to be May 10th. Getting that opportunity out there to the people, that's where my heart in the trenches is. It's like, so if anybody's listening that's really great at marketing or book advertising or anything else, we would love some assistance with that. That comes out May 10th, Mill Spouse Appreciation Day. So I would say that's the hardest thing of me in the trenches and making the consistent and getting the revenue consistently, because January was great. February was great. March was fantastic. April's kind of, we still got some days left in April, but right now, April is bombing in this particular regard. We hope to lift out, but I would say those are the hardest things. But don't give up just because it's hard and everything else, because as long as you're doing your calling, there's going to be ebbs and flows. No entrepreneur, I don't even have to know every entrepreneur. No entrepreneur is like, yep, I have consistent, successful months. I'm always meet my goals and everything else. My business became 7, 8, 9 figure. And then I built a boat and I like all these things. Jeff Bezos. But those are very rare successes in there. The entrepreneur life is like the boat that if the sails hit well, you get a good wind. If it hits bad, it tips over and goes. But you can go over and pick it up again. That's the beautiful thing. And then try to sail again.
Well, and absolutely, and you know all about mission, know all about team, and you have really good people around you, and I do as well, and I think that that's something else that we're really creating is creating a whole new, different but meaningful team, each and every one of us, and I think that that's wonderful. But you also do something that very few people you know, very few people do. And that is you're also a business owner and entrepreneur with your wife. You also, and I know a lot of couples, boy, they have great marriages, but boy, they don't have great businesses and they don't last long. But you and Michelle, I mean, you guys are kind of, keeping the secret from the rest of us. What is that secret sauce that you and Michelle have that the rest of us may not have? And
A
can you share it?
balance a balance from the prayer room to the boardroom. Every single couple, Christian or not, got to have
Hmm.
great spirituality, unified values, and connections in the bedroom first before pouring out into the living room and boardroom. So I'll share a little bit about the spiritual kicking in the where and why it happens. So 3 prongs of it. 1, a-hole. That was number 1. 2, selfish. And 3, working backwards. And most of us do it wrong on the backwards part. We go get our boardroom successful to hopefully have a better relationship and up level our kids to then have a better marriage. And one day we might have a faith in God. God, once I get all these things in order, I will go over. Well, I became an a-hole because I didn't go over and focus on the right order, and I was selfish. So when I go into self, looking in a backwards capacity, boardroom, living room, bedroom, then prayer room, that's where the collapse happened. I had Christ in 2002, but I was living it in the wrong way. So those 7 years, even though I was active duty and I was making successful money, and then I got out to try to do entrepreneurial stuff with marriages and churches and everything else, I wasn't being successful at home in the prayer room and in the bedroom and in the living room and the boardroom. That's the only way long term it will be successful. Yes, there can be people that are blessed fiscally and whatnot, but they
Right.
will lose everything else. It doesn't matter if you're a dollaire or a billionaire. Once that rooms get destroyed, you will be dealing with the havoc for the rest of your life. Some people can go over and redeem and have other marriages. I'm not saying in anything regard of blended marriages, new marriages, everything else. But if we can captivate ourselves and be in the right place, spiritually, prayer room, and in the bedroom, correct, when we go onto the living room and serving our kids and going out into the boardroom and serving the community, that's how couples can be successful in the entrepreneur world, because those trials will come. But if you keep those rooms safe and then you pour from prayer room out, that's what makes a successful couplepreneur, if you want to call it that.
And being a successful couplepreneur and having an awesome relationship with God and with your wife, your kids are getting older, and so they start to absorb more and more and more. How do you feel now as a father, you know, you know, looking over your kids versus let's say a few years ago? I mean, there must be a certain amount of swelling of pride in your relationships with your kids as well.
I would say it depends on ebbs and flows, to be honest. Everybody says everything is rainbows and sunshine. I try to be an active dad as much as possible. Friday nights, one particular kid will say, hey, I want to go do something. I do that. Sundays is family nights with the kids. I try to do walks and talks with the kids and FOMO events. If you want to get your kids to go out, do something FOMO, fear of missing out. But the thing of the matter of it is that every relationship is going to have those ebbs and flows. 2 years ago, two of my kids were spiritually oppressed. One of my kids tried to commit suicide twice, and it was a really tumultuous time. But I don't have any blame for that overall. I still loved on them, but those things can happen even if you're outpouring the love from a great marriage and from a great spiritual life. Those trials still can come. It's how you walk through them and everything else. I've had my spouse has had two SI attempts long time ago. This is about 10, 15 years ago. My son about 2 years ago. I mean, our marriage was on the brink of divorce in 2013. But as they've aged, as long as you are being consistent in those rooms, the trials will come, but the relationships will stay. Even if there's like an exodus for a season, sometimes, children might hate you, move out of the house, stay away from you, whatever, ostracize. If you continue to do that, eventually those rooms will stay intact. And then those people, your kids and the extended relationships will stay out. So I would say, reflecting back on all that, I'm thankful to have them, but it's not like it's all like sunshines and rainbows. Some days it's a great roller coaster ride and I'm getting up through, and sometimes I'm throwing up on myself because I went to loop-de-loop and hit it at the same time. So
Right,
I would just, you got to look at it. It's like what my old pastor used to say, you don't look at marriage in years, you look at it in decades.
Mm-hmm.
If you measure it in decades, then you're going to see the fruit. You don't see the fruit. The same thing with your kids. If you measure in the moment. All right. Yeah, my son ripped my soul yesterday. If I look at that, life's going to suck. If he goes over and praises my name next, oh, it's awesome. I'm going to look at it. The longevity. Do I have an overall good relationship with my kids? I would say yes. Was I the best dad all 18, 17 years? No. But I know the Lord will go over and sustain it and repair it and heal it and everything else. So
yeah, absolutely.
Look at it in the sense of legacy, not in the sense of just the moment or a couple of years. You can either be really happy or really sad, and I'd rather be really joyous.
And that's my last question is like, I always like to say when I work with people, I always want to just meet them where they're at. And one of the questions I ask many times is, if your life was to be put into a legacy, what would that legacy look like? And so for you, Daniel, at this point in life, what does your legacy look like? And what do you want to add to that legacy as you continue in the next few years?
Okay, so like from 42 to 75, like today, and then 30 years from
As
now,
you
is that?
next 2 to 3 years, how would you like to add to your legacy?
I'd say right now my legacy is the few people I minister at work, my wife, my kids, and the few people I get to connect with like you. In 3 years from now, I would like to go over and see at least 100 marriages saved that are military marriages. I would like to have 10 veteran families get reconciled. I would like to at least help out 1 to 2 military businesses to go over and to get up on their feet. And I want to be full-time in our business at Learn and Live, going over and ministering from the prayer room to the boardroom. And then lastly, have my wife be able to do the evangelistic events and speaking and teachings that she wants to do to minister to the world so they can learn surrender to God and they can go over and serve others. So that's what I would say I want in about 3 years from now. And if a 6-figure income comes into it, that's nice to me.
I'm sure it will. God will provide everything that's going to happen. Again, thank you so much. I am with Daniel.r.faust. He's an author, publisher, veteran, and owner and founder of Learn and Live. You can reach him at daniel.r.faust@gmail.com, or you can call him at 602. Let me say it, 757-6711. He's keeping that Scottsdale number alive, everyone. He's keeping that Scottsdale number alive. Again, Daniel, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you. You're a great friend. And you know what? Let's do this again sometime. And I can't wait to get some more things done with you. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You've been watching the Iron Entrepreneur Show, a production of the Iron Entrepreneur Radio Network, with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.